Welcome to Purpose Driven Chance Podcast, where champions are not just born, they are created with intention, dedication, and relentless pursuits of excellence. I'm your host, William Grayson, with my sidekick, William D. Harris. How you doing, Will?
Going good, doing great.
Today we got Associate Michigan head coach Phil Martelli. How you doing, Phil?
I'm doing great, guys. Thank you for
Oh,
having me on with you.
no problem, no problem, no problem. Coach Phil, we're going to just ask you a couple questions, nothing, off the ball or nothing like that. My first question, Coach, is basically, can you share with us a pivotal moment that helped shape your philosophy on coaching and leadership?
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I would say in coaching, a pivotal moment for me when I was a very, very young kid, uh,
Uh-huh.
12 or 13 years old. I was in Lansdowne, Delaware County, outside of Philadelphia. I met three guys. One was a postman, one was a
Uh-huh.
banker, and one was a politician. And they were my CYO coaches.
Uh-huh.
And up until that point, I was, and I say this affectionately, I was a playground rat. If it was baseball, I played baseball. If it was football, I played football. If it was basketball and we were lucky enough that the weather held up, we played outside. If not, every once in a while we got into a gym. And then I moved from Southwest Philadelphia to Delaware County, and I met these three guys, and they were into basketball. They coached
Uh-huh.
basketball. And the banker, Tom Gallagher, he coached 360 days a year, whether it was in the gym at the school or on the
Uh-huh.
outdoor courts. And I was just mesmerized by the game of basketball. And I was mesmerized more about the leadership, the coaching. And I thought, you know what? This is something that I would like to do. I think it's something that I can take lead and I can pursue this. I didn't know at that time, to be honest with you, that you can make it a career, a livelihood. I just knew that it involved basketball, which to me is a non-discriminatory sport.
Uh-huh.
Doesn't matter if you're from Chester or from Philly, if you're from Virginia, California. It's a game. Doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. If you can dribble, pass, and shoot, and you're willing to compete, you can find a game. The three of
That's
us could go out right now and find a 3-on-3 game,
that's right.
and it would be the same as playing Villanova at the Palestra. So it's a beautiful game. It does not discriminate. It is open to all ages, all sexes, all uh, colors. And I just knew back then, yeah, this is something special. And if I could lead the way they led, and by that I
Uh-huh.
mean they took a group of 12 and 13-year-olds and said, here's what we're going to do. And we had routines. And back then we didn't know it, but we had principles. Maybe they called them rules. And we did things for the greater good of a group, and that to me was the essence of all that I've ever tried to do. I always wanted to try to do more for the group than the group was doing for me.
See, that says a lot about you. It really does. And a lot of people don't think that way anymore. I hate to say it. They just think for themselves. And it's glad you said that. I really like that. Will.
Coach, man, when I think about you, Coach, it's like me and you been like family. I remember when you came to PMC Widener '72. I watched you play. I remember spending some time over in your dorm room with you. It's uh, it's been quite a journey for you, man. And I remember your first year as assistant coach at Widener, and then 7 years at Kendrick, then 10 years on Hawk Hill with Coach Boyle and Coach Griffith, then 24 years as the head coach, and the last 5 years, man, as the associate head coach for Jawan and there at the University of Michigan, man. It's been a blessing for me to be, because I think I've really been a major part of your journey because I followed you all the way, always around. And right now I'm going to your second home, Chester. I'm watching the Clippers play tonight, and you got two kids from Chester, Jameer Nelson, 2004 Wooden Award winner, and then you had the honor of coaching my crazy cousin, Darren Govins. And I remember you telling me sometimes you just have to blow your whistle in practice and stop practice and say, Darren, are you sure you from Chester? So, man, I know you said you got 1 year left, and I know you're gonna do something with basketball. I don't know what you're gonna do after, but I know you're gonna be in media at that house. But I've had the pleasure of being in your life for a long, long time and watch you
Yes, sir.
accomplish so many things, man. And every time I reached out, you've been there for me, man.
Well, I I'm really blessed in that I can say this. It's never, my career has never been about wins and losses and nets and championships and accolades and pats on the back and what people say about you. It has always been about the memories and the relationships. So this relationship does go all the way back to 1972. And this relationship had more to do with being off the court than on the court. And then when you bring up those names, Jameer Nelson and Darren Govins and reaching back, and I always tell story when I was driving through Chester one time, uh, going to a Chester High game, and on every street corner, somebody was coming up to my car to let me know that they were the reason that I got Jameer, and they were the reason that he was able to scale the mountain. And I do believe that. I'm not a cliche guy, but Chester, all that Chester did for me, it was in my blood, uh, and it will always be in my blood. But the memories and the relationships uh, will never leave me. If somebody said to me, "Do you remember a game, at Widener against Swarthmore?" I might not remember that game, but I remember my teammates at Widener. I remember Alan Rowe, and I remember the Dairy Queen, and all those. Just I the hair on my arms is standing up because of the names that you rattled off and the ideas that you just presented with memories and relationships.
Hey, Coach, I just want to ask you this. Your college basketball coach, C. Allen Rowe, who's no longer with us, and his assistant, Jack Klotz.
Mm.
Talk to us about the impact those guys made in your life, Coach.
Well, Alan Rowe uh, was a guy who became comfortable in his own skin. Now, that was before I got there. But just to know that at Widener, and you and I both know Bill Manlove did the same thing in football, and Harry Miller did it in baseball. They never apologized for Widener being a Division III school. What they did at Widener was they pursued championships, and that stayed with me. Their preparation, their approach, every single game was like a championship game, but it was always about the players and not about them advancing themselves. You and I both know a lot of guys who have coached in high school, and they're coaching with an eye on the next level, or they coach in Division III and have their eye on the next level. Those guys, Bill Manlove and Alan Rowe and Harry Miller, they wanted to create champions at the Widener level, and it always meant a great deal. The most important job that you have and the best job that you have is the one you have. And
Yep.
so don't be wandering around and making yourself miserable because someone else has something more. Cherish what you do have. And then Jack Klotz was just, as you well know, he was a guy's guy. He knew what he knew, He was an absolute monster of a man. And I mean that spiritually. I mean that physically. I mean that emotionally. And boy, to have those guys as my coaches and really teachers, because that's more than anything else. If you want to be great at coaching, don't consider yourself a coach. Consider yourself a teacher. And Alan Rowe and Jack Klotz did that for me.
Coach, I got one more question for you, and I'm just curious. You know, one of Coach Alan Rowe's things was defense, and y'all was always top 5 defensive teams in the country. But my question is, you know that 1-3-1 zone in your sleep, but did you ever use that at St. Joe's or Kendrick?
I used it at Kenrick a little bit more than I did at St. Joe's. Every once in a while, I would dust it off if the personnel was fit. What the big wings. You needed somebody up top. You needed a runner on the baseline. And as much as I was an assistant coach with C. Allen, as much as I can remember having C. Allen at my house and going over the X's and O's. It's a lot like the Pete Carrill Princeton offense. I didn't know it exactly, so I never felt comfortable teaching it because I thought I would leave segments out. I think that's why people don't run the Princeton offense the way that Pete Carrill did, because you leave parts out, and therefore it becomes a flawed instead of a perfect product.
Okay. How do you, Phil? How do you instill a sense of purpose and drive into your players, both on and off the court?
Wow. Well, I would start with this idea. I think that you have to make with each individual player, you have to make this very personal. Okay. Like, and I'm not saying you deflate their dreams, but there's nobody in college basketball that doesn't believe that they're going to play at the next level.
Right. We all.
Right. So if you let them run with that, there may be high school players who think, well, I'm just going to get a scholarship. But what is it that you're doing every day and focused on this? And this is what I try to do with every player that I come in contact with. What are you going to do today to be a better student? What are you going to do today to be a better player? What are you going to do today to be a better person? And don't get them confused. Being a better person is more important than being a better player. Being a better student is more important than being a better player. Now, don't give up on your dream, but understand that if the world's not tied together, I used to use this all the time. If you come running into practice from psychology class and you didn't do well in psychology class, all the adults out there say, well, put it aside and work, focus on this. No, it's like a tree, man. The tree grows and everything is interwoven. So keep yourself together as a person. And in one way, shape, or form, do one thing today that makes you a little bit better. As a student, do one thing. Then you can concentrate on the player. But if you think you can put them in compartments, if you think you can skip a summer workout and be a better player the next day, that's not true. But that's same as in school. If you skip an assignment, you're not a better student, right? If you miss an opportunity as a person, how about just this one thing? Well, I don't know what to do every day to make myself a better person. Well, in the world that we live in, we're all so isolated. We grab these phones and we stare at these phones. How about if today you just concentrate on making eye contact when you're talking to somebody? You might not think that you've been but you are a better person because you did that. How about in the high school where you have these cliques?
Yep.
How about if today, when I wake up and I'm a high school junior and I make it this pledge to myself, I'm going to say hello to that kid who I don't know. I'm just going to say hello. And if we did that every single day, when you go to put your head on the pillow, regroup from your day. Are you a better person? Are you a better student? And then are you a better player? Or are you a better artist? Are you a better uh, uh, mechanic? Are you what did you do this day to just be better in your chosen field?
That was really deep. Will.
Coach, 2003, 2004, 30-2. Not only the greatest basketball year in Hawk history, but probably one of the greatest basketball years in the history of Philadelphia college basketball.
Yes.
You lose to Xavier in the A10 tournament. Then you get all the way to the Elite Eight, and I still see it in my sleep, and I know you do too. And John Lucas III hit that jump shot, and it was over for you. What was that year like for you, Coach?
Well, the description that I've given is that it felt like a year in a bubble. It started when Jameer Nelson took his name out of the NBA draft. And the first thing that resonated with me is we all have to be better.
Mm-hmm.
I have to be better in formulating practices. I have to be better in scouting opponents. We have to be better in promoting this entire entity. We have to be, and to the players, you have to be better. You have to spend a little bit more time on your individual game. You have to understand and respect the time that you're training in the weight room. You have to respect the time when you're off, right? But at the same time, you have to respect the fact that you are your parents' son. You are your brother and sister's brother. You're a boyfriend, whatever it would be. Like, go into a bubble. And there were days that year when I didn't know what day of the week it was. Oftentimes I didn't know what time. I knew this. I knew that everybody was going to be in on this. So you knew. I never closed the practice. I never shut anybody off. We did every possible interview, and it had nothing to do with me promoting me. It was me promoting those players because I thought that they were just so extraordinary. And then when you think back and say, well, what happened the first game of the year, Gonzaga in Madison Square Garden? And it was like a coming out party. Jameer was obviously a great player, but he became now this national player. And then there were games along the way where you just said, it was an honor to be a part of that. I go back to the beginning and say the memories and the relationships stay with me. And to this day, when I talk to those players and they end a text or they end a conversation with, I love you, coach, then I feel, you know what, we did right. Yeah, we didn't win the national championship. We didn't make the Final Four. We didn't go undefeated. But what matters the most, that's where we succeeded. All of the attention, and you are so on point. You're so on point. I was just daydreaming about it this morning. That team became a standard in Philadelphia, and I, you know me, I have ultimate respect for Jay Wright's 2 national championships, Rolly Massimino's national championships. But when you talk about the greatest teams to ever do it in Philadelphia, and when you have that badge, that's as big a badge as you can get. That team stands on the top shelf. They may not be alone, but they're on the top shelf as an unbelievable collection of people who did extraordinary things.
All right, Coach. In your view, basketball has evolved during your tenure. What are what are the implications of your coaching? Like, what changes have you seen during your tenure in your years of coaching?
Wow. The things that have changed is that players are very, very, very willing to work on their own skills. Therefore, at the sacrifice of pickup basketball.
Uh-huh.
If William Harris was driving around Chester right now and I said to him, take us to a park where there's guys playing pickup, 30 years ago, he would have easily gotten to that park.
Right.
It's going to take him 30 years from this moment forward to find a park where guys are playing pickup.
Right.
So the individualization of what they call working out has been to the demise of pickup.
Okay.
And I'll say this about pickup basketball. At pickup basketball, you learn leadership skills because somebody has to organize, say what time we're going to play, who's going to play, and here's how we're going to pick sides.
Right.
And here's how we're going to play the game.
Right.
You learn, and this sounds crazy, but you learn to argue in pickup basketball.
You're right, though. You're right. Yeah, you're right.
It's that's a foul. No, it's not a foul. Da, 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 da.
Yeah, right.
And it saddens me to say this. Today's youth don't know how to argue. What do? They run and get a weapon.
Right.
Right? That it just tears my heart out. They don't know how to argue. Right? And so the over individualization of workouts, the demise of pickup, the absolute proliferation of people that are willing to help. And I'm going to say, like, I'm not one of those guys to say that, oh no, they're not really trying to help. They're trying to help themselves. No, I don't believe that. I believe there's so many people out there that want to give back to the young that's a positive. I'm not crazy about AAU where they have to travel all over. What if you just stayed in your area and you kind of determined a pecking order in your own area, saving your families a lot of money? I think that the players are better. I mean, they can do more things with the ball. They can run. They can jump. And for the most part, they know how to play. It's just when they get caught in this, let me chase a ranking as opposed to a win. Let me chase what others think about me rather than growing my own game. We've lost that. And I think the other thing with so much of pulling apart, kids going to prep schools, and I just think there's a beauty in playing with the guys that you played with when you were in the 5th grade. when you played in Chester Biddy and you played for the High, and if you went to Catholic school, but we've lost that what I consider that real edge, that neighborhood edge that we had in everybody's game.
Like your rivalry, your next city rivalry.
Yes.
It then went away because they say AAU, hey, we're playing this team in another state. Wait a minute, whoa, they're not even in this state. Why are we going way over here? So you lose. Like, I understand exactly what you're saying. The rivalry in the interstate schools, there's no more rivalry right there anymore. It sometimes you see in a football, but it's very rare. But like you said, it's AAU has basically taking it over.
Well, and then also these superpowers, like these kids going to these superpower schools. There's just something about, being the best player or being on the best team from Chester High or from Innerborough or from Woodrow Wilson High School in Washington, D.C. I can appreciate what people are doing now, but it doesn't mean that I don't wish for the old times.
Gotcha. That's understandable. Well,
Coach, man, basketball has been your life, man. And your life has come full circle. And when I say full circle, um, your wife, Julie, was a basketball player at Immaculata College. And I tell people all the time, I'm not a fan, I'm a historian. Where they won 3 national championships before basketball has grown and played for one of the great coaches, women coaches nobody seems to remember but me and you, Kathy Rush. Then you got your 2 sons. You got, Jimmy just got the job at Bryant, and Phil Martelli Jr. is at Penn State. And then your daughter, Elizabeth. It's just, for me, to see your life come full circle and see how your life has impacted, you and your wife, has impacted not only your children, but your family and the community is a tremendous thing. And, women's basketball has come a long way. But I truly remember those Immaculata teams, with
Mm-hmm.
Teresa Shank and all those people. And just talk to me how it seems like everything fell in place for you in your life with your children and your wife.
Well, I always tell people it's the other way around. My son Phil Martelli Jr. is the head coach at Bryant, and my son Jimmy's at Penn State. But I met my wife at a basketball camp. Uh,
Oh, wait a minute.
I had this remarkable opportunity to be around Hall of Famers because those 3 teams that you mentioned that won the national championship, they are in the Hall of Fame. Kathy Rush is in the Hall of Fame. Teresa Grentz is in the Hall of Fame. Uh, it's just you said it. It's like this magic carpet ride for a guy that was just trying to get in the games at St. Joe Prep and Narberth Playground and Widener College. And what the game has given to me, I could never, ever, ever repay it. But what I do every day is try to repay it because all that I have came from the game. Now, there were sacrifices. When other people could coach their kids in the winter, that wasn't really a factor. But at the same time, I've been able to introduce my sons and daughter and wife to, you name them, we've met them.
uh-huh.
And to be given so much, it's still incumbent upon me to make sure that I give back. And that's what I've tried to do through Coaches versus Cancer, through the many, many times I had opportunities to speak at schools or companies. It was always in an effort to say thank you, to thank people like William Harris, to
Uh-huh.
thank people like Alan Rowe, to thank people like Jack Klotz, to thank people like Breon Harris, to thank people like Mike Valchep, to thank Pat Knapp, to thank those guys, because I would not be sitting here without all of them lifting me on their shoulders all the way through. Eddie Burke and Mo Howard and Sonny Hill, and the names we could go another hour, and I wouldn't name every name that has lifted me on their shoulders. And so it's my responsibility to turn around and lift the next young person. If it's my sons, that's fine.
Right.
But I want any player that comes in contact with me to say, I'm a little bit better because I was in Coach Martelli's presence.
That's real deep. Coach, what advice would you give young athletes to play at the collegiate level? This is basically my last question. Then I
First,
let Will
first,
go.
first, they have to play with joy. I mean, when people are coming out, they have to make sure that they play with joy. The
Uh-huh.
second thing is that they want to have a plan, right? If you want to play in college, there's a lot of ways to play in college, right? So I call it like a funnel. There's a great big funnel at the top, and are you willing, and do you have the means If it's Division III, it's Division III. That's playing college basketball. Have you put yourself in place for a scholarship opportunity at Division II? Are you doing the right things in school so that doesn't close the door? Your academics can't close the door. But the first thing that I would beg them to do is to play this game with joy.
Okay.
Play the game with joy. Continue to improve every day. And then I want them to be like a pebble in a pond. If their dream and their aspiration is to play in college, drop your pebble into a pond. And if they have to tell a coach like me, and maybe they're not all for Michigan, but maybe if it ripples out, maybe they're all not for Bryant, where my son's coaching. But maybe it ripples out, and maybe it's Philly U or Jefferson or Newman College. Make sure that people know of your dreams and your aspirations, and then they can help with your dreams and your aspirations. But if you hold them inside and think people are going to assume because you play for the high school, you must want to play in college, that's not how it works. Share it. Don't be afraid. And the reason that people don't share their dreams is because they fear that they'll fail.
That's the main thing. You're right.
Right?
You're right.
They fear that they'll fail. And you can only fail if you don't put it out there.
Exactly.
Give yourself a chance. Be that pebble in a pond.
Man, it was a pleasure for having you on. I know next year is going to be the final run, and I told you before we came to Charlotte that next year I'm coming to Ann Arbor.
Yes,
Spend
sir.
a week with you, because I know it's your last hurrah, and I've been a big part of your life, and I'm looking forward to coming up there to see you, and maybe this time I'll be able to catch a Michigan football game.
Whoa. National champs. You forgot to say national champs.
Yeah, it's crazy up there right now, Coach. You up there you're in the best place to be in the country right now, Michigan.
Yes, sir.
Because they crazy with Detroit. Detroit is, it's just unreal with them, and then Michigan just won, so you're in a good spot.
Yeah, but you know, Dorothy was right? There's no place like home. There's no place like home.
Coach, my man, Coach. I love you,
All
Coach.
right. I appreciate you guys. Much love.
No,
Much love.
thank you for coming on. Thank you very much.
You.
All right. Is there anything you want to tell everybody before you leave? Like, any like you said, you mentioned your cancer, give the website out or anything?
Nah.
All right.
We're all good.
All right. Thank you. No problem. Bye-bye.